That is the question. And Jen, in fact, we've already seen the finger pointing begin. Some people even blaming President Biden. We heard that very forceful condemnation by President Biden of what happened.
That's how everybody should be responding. For anyone out there who has a platform, who thinks the moment right now is to be political and attack the other party, you are feeding into the danger. You are making it more likely there's retaliation. I'm incredibly scared. I'm scared for journalists. I'm scared for people who have public platforms.
That's the shills and establishment media making the failed assassination attempt on Donald Trump all about them and their ruling political party. Welcome to Nerk News. I'm Nerkish, and it looks like the news NPCs got a new firmware update following the attack on Trump, because the new narrative is all about unity and playing the victim while simultaneously victim blaming the person who got shot. Here's a failed Jill Biden clone and a political hack who threatened women accusing Bill Clinton of sexual assault, blaming Trump shortly after the assassination attempt.
Also, George, we have to point out, no matter who the shooter, what the shooter's motives were, no matter who the shooter is, you are going to hear conspiracy theories going forward.
No question about that. But as you point out, those statements from J.D. Vance and Vivek Ramaswamy, of course, President Trump and his supporters have contributed to this violent rhetoric as well.
Well, absolutely, George. We were just looking back this morning at some of the things that former President Trump has said. He warned last March of potential death and destruction if he were charged by the Manhattan District Attorney. Our country is being destroyed as they tell us to be peaceful. Trump in January warned of bedlam in the country if the criminal charges against him succeeded. And of course, in March, he said, now, if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole. That's going to be the least of it. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country. That will be the least of it. He said he was partly joking and that was taken out of context. But those are indeed his words. And you have heard it from supporters as well. And supporters are certainly in some parts angry. And let's remember January 6th. In so many ways for the campaign, January 6th will probably be in the background after yesterday's event. This is a very difficult time for this campaign. I'm sure this week in Milwaukee that President Trump will highlight this, and President Biden is going to have to figure out how to go forward with his campaign and what exactly they say.
Thanks for that refresher on all your propaganda. It really helps us remember why you're terrible journalists. Now, there might be some of you saying, wait a second, didn't the media attack Trump endlessly for years, calling him things like a dangerous authoritarian fascist? I mean, I distinctly recall them recently saying that he was going to never leave office and jail his opponents if he gets elected. Well, worry not, because the hacks at PBS want you to know that that's not considered vilification.
Yes, the left has vilified Donald Trump.
I'm sorry, define vilified.
You can argue the merits, but in fairness, the left has vilified Donald Trump. Threat to democracy, that he's a...
Is that a vilification or
he's
an
a proto-fascist?
Is that a vilification? And I don't mean to argue with you, Jeff, but I disagree with this notion that the left has vilified Donald Trump. The left has pointed out multiple things he has done as president, has said as president, as a candidate for the presidency again, that deserve to be pointed out, deserve to be criticized. That's not vilification. That's acknowledging what is there for everyone to see. Now, if someone had called him, all sorts of names, in addition to that, then the name calling, I would say, is vilification. But the substance of what people are talking about, you can't call that vilification when you're hammering the guy on what he proposes for the country and to do to the country.
Nice to see those government subsidies are going to good use. But maybe we're being too harsh. That's establishment media after all. They're just doing what they're told. What about the real people in charge? What about Democrats? Surely they should be held accountable for using inflammatory rhetoric.
You called your opponent an existential threat. On a call a week ago, you said it's time to put Trump in the bullseye. There's some dispute about the context, but I think you appreciate that.
I didn't say crosshairs. I was talking about focus on. Look, the truth of the matter was, what I guess I was talking about at the time was there was very little focus on Trump's agenda.
Yeah, the term is bullseye.
It was a mistake to use the word. I didn't say crosshairs. I meant bullseye. I meant focus on him. Focus on what he's doing.
Ah, yes, he meant crosshairs. That's totally understandable. I bet if Sarah Palin had thought of that excuse, she wouldn't have been dragged through the mud and attacked by elites. But just to summarize the general consensus, this was all Trump's fault. Saying anything to the contrary is putting Democrats and journalists in danger, and anything negative they said or will say about him is completely fine because he's a political figure. Is it just me, or does that sound a little hypocritical? But let me know what you think. Are journalists the real victims here? Let me know in the comments, and if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel. That stuff really helps us out. Until then, this has been Nerk News. Thanks for watching. Bye!